A stock that I've owned for roughly a year and a half, well after the company started experiencing significant issues, is Medical Properties Trust. After seeing how undervalued the company was, I decided to dedicate a small amount of my dividend portfolio, less than 2%, to holding MPW. Needless to say, it's been a roller coaster ride ever since I first bought into this stock, and at times it's left me feeling pretty nauseous. You already know the short reports and all the issues involving Steward Health. Last month it was announced that Medical Properties had officially cut ties with the bankrupt hospital company, which was a huge sign of relief for investors in this stock. Over the course of about a week following the announcement, the share price of MPW soared by over 30%, reaching a 52-week high of $6.37. The boom, however, would be short-lived as new developments generated more pessimism toward the medical REIT. As of the making of this video, the share price of MPW has fallen back down to where it was before the announcement regarding Steward Health officially being cut off. So today we'll take a look at some of the recent headlines regarding Medical Properties Trust, which includes insiders selling shares of their own stock, the results of a third-party investigation, and more recent negative articles on the real estate investment trust. We'll also try and determine how desirable this stock may be for dividend investors. After more than 2 years of constant allegations by short sellers, Medical Properties Trust decided to hire an outside firm to perform an audit of the company's financial reportings. The outside organization the board decided to hire was Watchell, Lipton, Rosen & Katz, a prestigious law firm that specializes in these kinds of audits. They were given full access to Medical Properties records, including private information that's not publicly available. On October 14th, Medical Properties issued a press release with the results of the audit. According to the letter that was issued to shareholders, over much of the past 2 years, Medical Properties Trust has been the target of considerable scrutiny from short seller hedge funds as well as certain media outlets. As fiduciaries for our shareholders, the board treats these matters with the utmost seriousness. In response to certain claims asserted by Viceroy Research, the board's audit committee engaged Watchell Lipton in early 2023 to conduct an independent investigation into the short seller allegations, including with respect to MPT transactions involving Steward Healthcare beginning in 2016. Watchell Lipton in turn retained a leading global consulting firm to assist with financial forensics as part of this investigation. No limitations or restrictions were placed on the scope of the investigation, and management cooperation with the investigation was exemplary. The key findings from the investigation are as follows. The investigation identified no evidence that the company gratuitously overpaid its operator tenants for real estate. It identified no evidence of improper round-tripping. The investigation found no evidence of improper recognition of uncollectible rent through GAAP-mandated strict-line revenue recognition. The investigation also found no evidence to substantiate the allegations that MPT was required to consolidate Steward's financial results. The investigation also concluded that neither Mandalit Health nor MPT had an ownership interest in any Malta property or hospital. The investigation yielded no evidence that management manipulated acquisitions or other metrics to meet compensation targets. And the investigation yielded no evidence of concerns regarding management's integrity. The report showed the company didn't act fraudulently or overpay for its assets. It also didn't find any evidence of what Viceroy and Ninja Research were accusing the company of doing. It was a major win for the company and confirmed what I had suspected for almost 2 years at this point, which is that these short reports were all complete nonsense. But there was another issue that recently came up regarding insiders of this company selling their own shares. According to SECform4.com, 3 insiders have sold shares of MPW in the last 3 or so months. Elizabeth Pittman, Reynolds Thompson, and Michael Stewart have recently sold shares of their company's stock, which has led to some concern by investors. Now, when it comes to insiders selling shares, you typically want to look for a pattern of board members running for the exit, basically. That's what we saw with Enron and these other major companies that were going through very large and legitimate scandals. Insiders sold hundreds of millions of dollars worth of stock in the months leading up to the company's collapse. MPW is obviously a much smaller company than Enron, but if there's a serious internal issue, then insiders often try to dump all of their shares so they can collect the money. And you can see there was a decently long period of no insiders selling shares of MPW, but all of a sudden it spiked up recently. But I don't believe that's what's going on here though. If you look here, Elizabeth sold a whole bunch of her shares, but then oddly repurchased more shares a month later for more money. Definitely kind of a bizarre thing to see. It looks like she was trying to time the market or something. It's also been pointed out that Michael Stewart regularly sells shares of MPW towards the end of the year during certain years. We obviously don't know why he does this during certain years. It could be because he's doing something for tax purposes, or maybe he just wants to sell shares for holiday spending. You can also see he sells right around the same number of shares each year. And then finally we have Reynolds here, who sold shares for the first time in 10 years. According to SECform4.com, he hasn't bought any shares either during this past decade. Again, we don't know why he did this. In the case of Reynolds and Steward, it could be they simply want a new summer home, and we don't have any certainty as to why they sold shares. He only sold about $90,000 worth, so it's not a tremendous amount of this stock. In my opinion, I'm not concerned with the recent insider activity for MPW. It's very low amounts for these people and nowhere near the amounts that we would likely see during a huge corporate scandal. And again, with the results of the audit being released just a few days ago, it seems unlikely that there's some kind of collapse going on behind the scenes with this company. Executives of MPW do not appear to be running for the exit here. Finally, there's also been some negative articles that have come out on Seeking Alpha in the past week or so about MPW. One is from KM Capital, a semi-active analyst with a very small following, but then there's also an article by Brad Thomas, who's one of the most followed authors on this website. Based on the evidence before us, it's my opinion that I think it's clear that the worst is behind for Medical Properties Trust. I completely understand not wanting to take a risk on this stock, which I consider to be a high-risk position, but I don't really get why both authors here would conclude with a sell rating. This is very likely the bottom for MPW. I'm not saying that their stock is going to shoot up to $8 or $10 per share in the next year or two. It could still be a very long ways away from that, but both articles I don't think present any new arguments that haven't been made already. There's absolutely no shame in someone not wanting to buy MPW. But in the end, another slightly positive thing about MPW is that their short interest is slowly going down. According to Seeking Alpha, it's currently at 35.86%, which is down slightly from 37.82% back in May. That's obviously not a great amount of improvement, and it's still one of the most shorted stocks in the market, which is frustrating. But things continue to move along with Medical Properties Trust, and I plan to remain invested in this stock. When I do buy shares, I'm buying very small amounts, usually not more than $100 or $150 during the months I do buy it. The road ahead for this company is still likely to be rough, with 2025 going to be an important year for them from a debt perspective. The accusations by Viceroy and Ninji should be in the past, but I don't doubt that they could very well try again, and people will likely still fall for them again. If you're okay with risk, then I think MPW is still a good consideration for a small position. But with that being said, that's going to conclude today's video. If you'd like to connect and also see what's inside my own personal dividend portfolio, then feel free to check me out over on our Patreon, where you'll receive updates and be able to talk to me and other higher yielding dividend and income investors. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and until next time, take care.